Ninja Tunes, and I could describe myself as a mixed medium, I suppose. I'm a kind of hacker who messes around with sound and visuals. Not being really able to play any instruments, I use computers as my main tools, computers and other bits of tech, and that's what I've been doing for the last 23 years. Okay, so ColdCut's my partner Jonathan Moore and myself, and we come from a DJing background. Really, DJing is about mixing records together and layering different sounds on top of each other, and we kind of used that to get into the business of making music. And then DJing, doing parties, we use 4-deck mixing to be able to build up layers of sound live. But John and I had always been interested in visuals, and so we realised, I think quite early on, that in fact 2 guys on stage with a couple of decks was probably not that entertaining to look at, and we could add to the interest of what we were doing by having visuals. And I think a lot of the best parties that we've been to always featured quite strong visual content. In fact, life is audio visual, it's never just about sound. And so it was natural to look for ways to bring the visual elements into our show. So around about 1993, I guess, I got a video mixer, and I'd also been messing around with an Amiga computer, which was kind of the first desktop computer that let you play with visuals. So programs like Deluxe Paint and Sculpt Animate 4D. Deluxe Paint was a 2D drawing program, and Sculpt Animate was a 3D modeling program. And then there was also a marvelous thing called Video Amiga, which let you sample frames in short sequences in black and white, but it still was a video sampler. So it became clear that we could use those kind of techniques to experiment with visuals and to apply some of the ideas and aesthetics of DJing and scratch mixing to visuals as well. So then we started taking a video mixer to shows. Sometimes I would just do visuals with other people playing the music. I did some great parties with Aphex Twin and Mixmaster Morris in the mid-90s doing that. And yeah, taking video players, a video mixer, the Amiga, a couple of monitors along to parties and mixing visuals along with what the DJ was doing. And then we also started doing that for our own shows, and we also started experimenting with more closely synchronizing sound and vision. So I worked with Stuart Warren Hill and formed a Hex project with him and some other guys, and we made a piece called Timber, which was a kind of audiovisual rhythm track composed of audiovisual samples. And we have the phrase, what you see is what you hear. So you'd have the sound of an axe hitting a tree, but you'd also have that image as well, which is a good, strong visual image. And there's also a kind of chainsaw solo, which is a guy cutting a tree with a chainsaw, and Stuart very cleverly tuned that, or cut it into sections, so it was almost like a guitar solo. So we started doing these audiovisual shows, and we developed our own software to play with audiovisual samples, because there wasn't anything like that around. I have to credit Emergency Broadcast Network from New York as being the first people I heard of doing this kind of cut-up, but we didn't have tools to do it. So coming from a computer programming background, I designed an instrument, an audiovisual instrument, which was called VJam, and I got some programmer friends of mine to code this up and make this into a program that could run on a laptop and enable us to take short audiovisual samples, which we take from everywhere, mainly from the telly and from films, and also film our own camera, and edit them, and then make banks of these samples, which we could then jam with live. And VJam was the tool for that, and we called that a piano for sound and vision. And then coming from the scratch DJ background, it's okay, so you're playing this piano, you're playing samples, but if it's a bit like an audiovisual deck, that's really DJing that we were coming from. What's your other hand doing? And I realised that it would be possible to build a scratch mixer to enable one to control these audiovisual samples. So it's always sort of relating it back to the hip-hop DJ analogy. And I took my video mixer, and I got a friend of mine who was adept with electronics to take the crossfader out and put in a link from a DJ mixer, so that the DJ mixer's crossfader also control the crossfader on the video mixer. So with one hand movement, it was kind of clumsy because it was like a dual crossfader, but basically with one hand movement I could bring in and cut out these audiovisual samples. So like a DJ again who might have a backing track on one deck and a scratch sample on the second deck, the backing track plays, you cut in and cut out the sample on top. So that's what we did. We had a visual backing track playing off a video CD player, this was before DVDs, and then we cut in samples, audiovisual samples from VJam on top. So Beats and Pieces is I think we've got a live jam which demonstrates what I'm talking about. So that was the sort of start of us doing audiovisual shows, and we did quite a few gigs. We toured America doing the show. Really, it was something new. People hadn't seen this before. It was, you know, technically quite punky, and it was always a real hassle because clubs didn't have video projectors. We wanted to set it up nicely so that people could really see what we were doing. And later on, we introduced deck cams, and I even had like on my headphones a little helmet. On my headphones, I had a little camera so that it could show what I was doing with my hands behind the decks, behind the laptops, and show that it was actually live what we were doing. Content for ColdCut can come from anywhere. A fair bit of it historically has been stolen, which means we record stuff off the TV and take stuff from films. And I kind of feel that that's fair use. So if a DJ can play records in a club, why shouldn't a DJ be able to play visuals? We do generate a lot of custom content as well. So we take Timber as an example. The main sources for that were a documentary from the TV. And then there's the sample of the native woman singing. And that was from another documentary. Now, in the end, we licensed that sample from the BBC. That track also contains some footage. It's got a very quick subliminal shot of a McDonald's rubbish bin, which I filmed up near London Bridge. And on the musical side, there's samples in there. There's the keyboard riff is played on a JD800 Roland keyboard, composed by us. And so very often it's a mixture of, I think found footage is probably the polite term for it, and original material. But there's many other types of material as well. And it's not just about film or classic video material. I'm very interested actually in using stills as well and in processing them to animate stills. And then there's custom animation, which can be 2D animation, hand drawn. I've done some of that myself, and I've worked with various animators who do that kind of work. And also 3D animation, possibly the most kind of demanding production technique. It's quite often difficult for an artist to have that clear an idea of who the audience is, but we clearly have got a fairly consistent audience. We wouldn't still be in business 23 years later. I think our audience is quite often a lot of creative people who are musicians, or perhaps artists or DJs themselves. And I think it goes in waves. I couldn't tell you how big our audience is at the moment. When we started off, it was a very small number of people, and then we got quite massive, and then sort of went down again. And like I say, it goes in cycles. But the last album we did, Samuel, was about 3 or 4 years ago, was pretty widely acclaimed, and people seemed to think that we were still on top. One interesting thing with the last album was the video side of things, and we collaborated with a number of directors and basically say, choose your track, we'll give you a budget, and you can do pretty much what you want. We're not going to tell you what to do. You can have complete creative freedom, and we'll cut you in on the royalties from video sales. So that was quite an innovation on the video production side of things. And I think it's clear nowadays that visuals are essential in combination with music. So making videos is very important. And I'm getting back into DJing again, actually. I'm looking for new ways to do DJing. I've talked before about keeping the skills of 20th century DJing alive in the 21st century as vinyl kind of slowly fades out, but the actual techniques can still be applied. And time-coded vinyl, which is a system that we use to use turntables to control software playback of music and videos, has become quite popular. Serato, Virtual DJ, two good systems that do that. One doesn't know what effect one's work has necessarily, but I've had people come up to me, a girl came up to me, Big Chill, and said, I just had to say that totally took visuals to a new level, thank you very much. And I was quite chuffed. You get all kinds of reactions to things, but I just think it's really worth thinking about what you're doing and trying to make it mean something. It's not just about abstraction and meaningless wallpaper and pretty patterns. It can be very good some of the time, but this is an incredible new art form and field of entertainment and beyond that. So we should take it just seriously enough to really take it to the max and do it for the benefit of all of them.
Riches to poorest, 3 worlds in one. Every creed and every tongue. Is the world spinning faster? Are we slowing down? Got a head in the stars and our feet off the ground. Gotta come back to earth. I come back to earth. I come back to earth.
Currently, there's a few projects on the go. There's the Energy Union film, which is an audiovisual mashup about intelligent energy. There's the new ColdCut album. There's a new ColdCut mix CD, kind of picking up where Journeys by DJ left off. There's the Ninja Tune 20th birthday party. Ninja Tune's our label, so we're celebrating 20 years in the business this year. And various kind of software, multimedia, internet development projects as well. The Energy Union project is an international European tour to promote intelligent energy, which is renewable energy basically. And there are a few films around which are kind of doom and gloom and talking about the apocalypse, and if we don't sort out the climate, we're all going to die. And Energy Union is more enthusiastic about our possibilities and more positive. The message is that intelligent energy is a better lifestyle. And so we've put together a montage of all kinds of material, and it's our first kind of full-length piece of work. So it's a film that has some kind of a structure and a story and a main character who's called the Avatar. It's an animated 2D character. And we've been taking that around Europe and playing at festivals and clubs and doing a kind of live mix down of it. And it's an example of work that I believe in,